I've been involved in the criminal law for over 30 years, and this is the most inhumane case I think I've come across.
10 years of laughter, of scraped knees, of dreams whispered in the dark. That's all Victoria Martens had. Her 10th birthday should have been a celebration. A day filled with cake and presents with friends and family. Instead, it became the day her life was brutally stolen. Victoria? A bright spark, a budding artist, a daughter who loved to tumble and dream of faraway places. She was a student at Petroglyph Elementary. Her favorite color was math. She loved gymnastics. She was so much more than what happened to her. She was a child. August 24th, 2016. A 911 call shattered the quiet of an Albuquerque apartment building. The words were frantic, laced with terror. A domestic dispute, they said. But what officers found inside, no training could have prepared them for it. Smoke. The acrid smell of burning. And then, the unspeakable. The discovery that would forever haunt the responders who crossed that threshold. The realization that a child's life had been extinguished in the most horrific way imaginable. Not by a stranger lurking in the shadows, but by the very people she should have been able to trust most. Michelle Martens, Victoria's mother. To the outside world, perhaps an ordinary woman. But behind closed doors, a different story unfolded. A story of broken trust, of calculated manipulation, of a mother's ultimate betrayal. Fabian Gonzalez, Michelle's boyfriend. A man with a history, a past that whispered warnings. They met on a dating site, a chance encounter that would seal Victoria's fate. Within weeks, he was living in their home, a shadow lurking in the corners of Victoria's life. Jessica Kelly, Fabian's cousin. Fresh out of prison, she entered the picture, bringing with her a darkness that would consume them all. Just days before Victoria's death, she moved into the apartment, an unwelcome presence in a home already teetering on the edge of disaster. The timeline is crucial. The pieces of this tragic puzzle fit together with chilling precision. Fabian, Jessica, their arrival, their influence, the rapid escalation of abuse. It all points to a carefully orchestrated plan, a web of deceit woven by those closest to Victoria. But how could a mother allow this to happen? What role did Michelle play in this horrific tragedy? And there were whispers, warning signs that went unheeded. 5 calls to the New Mexico Children, Youth, and Families Department. 5 opportunities to intervene, to save Victoria from the nightmare that was unfolding. But the system failed her. The calls were dismissed, the cries for help lost in the bureaucratic maze. 5 chances. 5 opportunities. And in the end, Victoria was left defenseless, trapped in a house of horrors, with the very people who were supposed to protect her. A mother, a boyfriend, a cousin. A twisted family dynamic that would ultimately lead to her death. I know this was a heavy one, but these stories need to be told. If you're feeling it, give this video a thumbs up and share it to spread awareness. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and join our true crime community. For those of you who've been here a while, you know I appreciate you. Thanks for sticking around. The night of August 23rd, 2016. Victoria's 10th birthday. A night that should have been filled with laughter and celebration. Instead, it became a night of unimaginable terror. Witnesses later reported seeing Jessica carrying Victoria into the apartment. A seemingly innocuous act, but in hindsight, a chilling foreshadowing of the horrors to come. Victoria, unaware of the fate that awaited her, was walking into a trap set by the very people she trusted. As the night wore on, neighbors reported hearing screams coming from the apartment, cries of terror, of pain, of a child's desperate pleas for help. Screams that went unanswered, swallowed by the darkness. Victoria's suffering echoed through the walls, a testament to the depravity unfolding within. Then, a calculated deception. Michelle and Fabian emerged from the apartment, claiming they had been attacked by Jessica. They called 911, their voices laced with feigned fear, a performance designed to deflect suspicion. But their act was just another layer of the web of lies they had woven around Victoria. When officers arrived, they were met with a scene of chaos. Smoke billowed from the apartment, the smell of burning flesh heavy in the air. And then, the discovery. Victoria's dismembered remains, partially wrapped in a burning blanket. The officers, hardened professionals, were shaken to their core. The sight of a child's life so brutally extinguished, a violation of innocence so profound, it left an indelible scar on their souls. The interrogation room, a place where lies unravel, where truth is dragged into the light. Michelle Martens, faced with the grim reality of her daughter's death, began her performance. The grieving mother, the shocked and bewildered victim. But the detectives, their faces etched with the weight of what they had seen, were not fooled. The initial narrative was carefully constructed. Blame shifted to Jessica, the outsider, the convenient scapegoat. But the detectives pressed, their questions probing, their gaze unwavering. They knew the truth was hidden beneath the surface, a dark secret waiting to be exposed. The turning point came slowly, agonizingly. Michelle's story began to fray, inconsistencies appearing like cracks in a dam. Then, the admission. She had witnessed it all. The torture, the violation, the unspeakable acts inflicted upon her daughter. The revelation of the sexual abuse, the drugs given to Victoria to make her compliant. The calculated, methodical nature of the crimes sent a chill through the room. This wasn't a crime of passion. This was something far more sinister. The detectives confronted Michelle with her complicity. Her denials grew weaker, her justifications more desperate. She was trapped in her own web of lies, the truth closing in like a vise. Victoria, her vulnerability, her innocence brutally shattered. The betrayal by her own mother, the ultimate violation of trust. The calculated nature of the abuse, the methodical planning, the sheer depravity of it all. These were the moments that revealed the true horror of the case. The interrogation continued, the details emerging slowly, painfully. Michelle's shifting stories, her attempts to deflect blame, her desperate pleas for leniency. But the detectives, driven by a need to find justice for Victoria, refused to relent. The truth had been unmasked, but the horror of what had been revealed would linger long after the interrogation room doors closed. The autopsy, a cold, clinical examination of a life brutally extinguished. But in Victoria's case, it also revealed a truth that contradicted the narrative spun by her mother. It exposed the full extent of the brutality she endured, and it unveiled a chilling mystery. The cause of death was undeniable: strangulation, stabbing, dismemberment. The details, even for seasoned investigators, were difficult to stomach. Victoria's small body had been subjected to unimaginable violence, a testament to the depravity of her killers. But the autopsy also revealed something unexpected. There were no traces of methamphetamine or alcohol in Victoria's system. Michelle's claims that Victoria had been drugged were false. Another lie, another attempt to deflect blame, to minimize her own role in the horrific events. And then, the mystery. Unidentified male DNA was found at the crime scene. A chilling revelation. Who was this unknown individual? What role did they play in Victoria's death? The questions lingered, unanswered, adding another layer of complexity to an already horrifying case. The autopsy, while providing some answers, also deepened the mystery surrounding Victoria's death. It exposed the brutality of the crime, the lies told by her mother, and the presence of an unseen predator. The search for truth, for justice, was far from over. The courtroom, a place where justice is supposed to prevail. But in Victoria's case, the legal proceedings left many with a sense of unease, a feeling that justice, while served, was imperfect. Michelle Martens, faced with the overwhelming evidence against her, struck a plea deal. Child abuse resulting in death. 12 years in prison. For some, it felt like a betrayal. How could a mother who had witnessed, and arguably enabled, such horrific abuse receive such a comparatively lenient sentence? Fabian Gonzalez, the man who inflicted so much pain on Victoria, finally faced trial in 2022. He was found guilty of reckless child abuse, tampering with evidence, and conspiracy. 37.5 years. A longer sentence than Michelle's, but still for many it felt insufficient. Jessica Kelly, the one who carried Victoria into the apartment that fateful night, also struck a deal. She pleaded guilty to several charges, including reckless child abuse resulting in death, and agreed to testify against Fabian. 44 years. The longest sentence, yet she may only serve half of that. The legal process was complex, the outcomes varied. But the question remained, did it bring closure? Did it feel like true justice for Victoria? The discrepancies in the sentences, the plea deals, the reduced charges, they left many wondering if the system had truly held everyone accountable for their roles in Victoria's death. The trials were over. The legal battles fought, but the emotional scars remained. The sense of loss, the anger, the feeling that something was fundamentally broken in a system that could allow such a tragedy to occur. The news of Victoria's death sent shockwaves through the Albuquerque community. Mourning turned to anger, grief to a burning desire for justice. People struggled to comprehend the unimaginable. How could such a horrific crime happen in their own neighborhood, to a child they had seen playing in the park walking to school? A makeshift memorial sprung up near the apartment building, a testament to the community's grief. Flowers, teddy bears, and heartfelt messages piled up, a symbol of their collective loss. Victoria's funeral was a somber affair, a gathering of broken hearts. Her classmates, her teachers, her friends, all struggling to say goodbye to a life that had barely begun. Candlelight vigils were held, a way for the community to come together, to share their grief, to express their outrage. The pain was palpable, a heavy weight on everyone's shoulders. But amidst the sorrow, there was also a determination, a resolve to ensure that Victoria's death would not be in vain. Victoria's maternal grandparents filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the city and the police department. They alleged negligence, a failure to investigate previous reports of abuse. It was a fight for accountability, a demand for answers. Why had the system failed Victoria? Why had her cries for help gone unanswered? The lawsuit was more than just a legal battle. It was a symbol of the community's determination to seek justice for Victoria, to hold those responsible accountable for their actions, and to demand changes that would protect other children from suffering the same fate. Victoria's death had left a gaping hole in the heart of the community, but it had also ignited a fire of anger, of grief, and of unwavering resolve. Victoria's case exposed not only the horrific acts of individuals but also a systemic failure within the Albuquerque Police Department. The very institution meant to protect and serve had seemingly turned a blind eye to the warning signs, compounding the tragedy with a profound betrayal of public trust. An internal investigation revealed that a police spokesperson had lied to the media about the department's response to the prior SIFT referrals concerning the Martens household. False statements, fabricated details, a deliberate attempt to cover up the department's inaction. The investigation uncovered a disturbing pattern of neglect. Despite 5 separate calls to SIFT, raising concerns about Victoria's safety, the police had failed to properly investigate. Leads were not followed, interviews were not conducted, and the cries for help from a vulnerable child were essentially ignored. The delayed investigation, the false statements, the lack of accountability, it painted a picture of a department struggling with internal issues, a department that had seemingly prioritized self-preservation over the safety of a child. It raised serious questions about the culture within the police force, the procedures in place, and the commitment to protecting the most vulnerable members of the community. Victoria's case became a symbol of systemic failure, a stark reminder of the need for reform. It underscored the urgent need for greater transparency, increased accountability, and a fundamental shift in priorities within the police department. Only then could the community begin to rebuild its trust and believe that those sworn to protect them would truly do so. Even with the convictions, even with the investigations, some questions remain unanswered, lingering like shadows in the corners of this tragic story. Questions that haunt the memory of Victoria, questions that leave a lingering sense of unease. The unidentified male DNA, a crucial piece of evidence, a silent witness to the horrors that unfolded in that Albuquerque apartment. Who was he? What was his connection to Victoria, to Michelle, to Fabian, to Jessica? Was he a participant in the abuse? A witness? Or something else entirely? The answers remain elusive, locked away in the genetic code, a mystery that may never be solved. And what of the full extent of the abuse Victoria endured? The interrogation transcripts, the autopsy report, they paint a grim picture, but do they tell the whole story? What other horrors did she suffer behind closed doors? What other acts of cruelty were inflicted upon her innocent body? The questions linger, unspoken, a constant reminder of the darkness that consumed her young life. Victoria's case is a tragedy etched in the heart of the community, a stark reminder of the vulnerability of children and the evil that can lurk in the shadows. But it is also a story filled with unanswered questions, lingering doubts that leave a sense of incompleteness, a feeling that justice, while partially served, may never be fully realized. The mysteries surrounding Victoria's death serve as a chilling reminder that some truths may remain forever hidden, lost in the darkness of that terrible night. Victoria's story is a tragedy, a stark reminder of the vulnerability of children and the devastating consequences of abuse. But it is also a call to action, a plea for change, a demand for a world where every child is safe, protected, and loved. Preventing child abuse requires a multifaceted approach. Education is key. We must teach children about body safety, about healthy relationships, about recognizing and reporting abuse. We must empower them to speak up, to seek help, to know that they are not alone. Awareness is crucial. We must be vigilant, recognizing the signs of abuse, both physical and emotional. We must create a culture where speaking up is encouraged, where victims are believed and supported, where abusers are held accountable. Early intervention is essential. When there are concerns about a child's safety, we must act swiftly and decisively. Resources are available. Hotlines, support groups, therapy services, they can make a difference. Don't hesitate to reach out, to ask for help, to be a voice for a child in need. Community involvement is vital. We must create a safety net for children, a network of support that includes families, schools, neighbors, and social service agencies. We must work together to identify and address the root causes of abuse, to provide resources and support to families in need, to create a culture of protection and prevention. Victoria's story is a tragedy, but it can also be a catalyst for change. Let us honor her memory by working together to create a world where every child is safe, where every child knows they are loved, where every child has the opportunity to reach their full potential. Let us transform our grief and anger into action, into hope, into a future where no child suffers the same fate. Let Victoria's legacy be one of resilience, of change, of a community united in its commitment to protecting the vulnerable.